The ACU football team takes on longtime Southland rival Lamar tonight in Beaumont. I'm Owen Simpson.
And I'm Grant Boone. We'll preview that game, have all the highlights from last week, and visit with Abilene's own Cade Parmalee. It's the Adam Dorrel Show right now. Welcome to Week 6 of the Adam Dorrel Show, presented by Lawrence Hall. From the ACU TV studios on the campus of Abilene Christian University, I'm Grant Boone, alongside Owen Simpson and the head football coach at ACU, Adam Dorrel. Tonight, the Wildcats renew acquaintances with the Lamar Cardinals down in Beaumont, Texas, in a matchup of two of the 5 founding members of the Southland Conference. Coach, you might have to use your GPS to get down there. This is the only team you haven't played yet since you got here to ACU. And at the risk of this sounding like coach speak, and I know coaches in every conference might say something like this, but this is the 6th year that ACU has been back in the Southland Conference. It's changed a lot since I've been watching it, but even in the 2 years since you've been in 2+ years, how much has the balance of power changed? Oh,
it's changed a ton, and I think if you talk to the so-called experts across the country in the FCS, I think they would tell you right now that the consensus of coaches and administrators across the country right now, the Southland is one of the best football conferences competitively from top to bottom. You know, when I got here 2 years ago, like you said, there was a lot of disparity, but there's not now, and it's getting really reminiscent of like the Missouri Valley with the North Dakotas, I mean, that's just a really good league from top to bottom. We all know that. But what has made it so good is that the competition. You know, there's not a give me in there any week, and you know, you look at the standings right now in the Southland Conference. You look at the guys that are playing really good football. There's some of the usual suspects, but there's obviously a whole host of new teams as well. So it's exciting, and you better buckle up each week.
And Coach, you're 2-0 this season, coming off a loss in the previous week. Whether it's making adjustments in practice or changing your formula, what are some specific things you focus on after a loss?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is you've got to reset mentally, man, and that starts. We have meetings Sunday night, and whether we win or lose when we leave Sunday, when they show back up Monday in the complex, and I'm very in tune to their body language and how their spirit is, but you have to reset mentally, and I feel like our guys have done that this year, and they've done that this week. We've had a good week, and I just whether it's the negative emotions from competing to the positive emotions, you know, last week is last week, and you got to move on, and you got to get reset. And I've been really excited about that. I think it speaks a lot to our leadership council and captains. To me, that really has to start with them and having a good mindset. And I think our guys have done that this week.
Another good test tonight as ACU takes on Lamar, a playoff team from last year. We will preview that game a little bit later on. But when we return, highlights and Coach Dorrel's analysis from last week's game down in San Antonio. This is the Adam Dorrel Show, presented by Lawrence Hall.
Welcome back to the Adam Dorrel Show. Last week, the ACU football team traveled to San Antonio to face Incarnate Word, ultimately falling in that matchup 31-24. Coach, after the loss, you told me that the team really wasn't ready to play. What led you to that conclusion, and why do you think that was the case?
Well, you go back and you look, and I just felt like emotionally we were too charged up, and it's not a deal where guys don't care, or it's more of a deal that they care too much and they're trying too hard. And I go back and you know, you have to watch the film, and it was just guys were trying to do too much, not doing their 1/11th, making a lot of mistakes and stuff that what we call have bank reps on, you know, your base offense, your base defense. You're always doing things each and every week to tweak the system based on who you're playing, but you always have a core set of plays on both sides that you run, and that was what was disappointing to us, that we had a lot of consistent mistakes in those core plays that we were running. Obviously, when you turn the football over 4 times in a game and you only get 2 turnovers with a negative turnover margin, and we've done such a good job all year because it's been such a great focal point of our guys. And, you know, I'm confident we'll get reloaded on that and take care of the football better. And special teams, I thought, was a really bright spot after looking at that, and that's something we got to continue to build on.
you couldn't have gotten off to a much better start.
Right.
I mean, first play from scrimmage, Jack Gibbons picks off John Copeland, last year's freshman of the year. Then you pin them deep, and you get the ball at the inside the 40-yard line after a Cameron Hill sack, his 7th of the season. So you start both of your first 2 drives inside their 40. You don't get any points off of it. As you look back at those 2 drives, and you've talked about this, the line is so fine between winning and losing in this conference. It's like, I know it was in the first quarter early, but at the end of the game, it's like we needed a couple of field goals there even, right?
Yeah, well, right. You get the turnover, and then you go the very first play, you take a negative 9-yard loss, and again, we didn't do what we were supposed to do on that first play. Turn around, don't get points. Pin them deep, get the sack, which that sack is so close to being a safety, 2 points. Again, there's so many little things that can change the complexity of a football game. But I agree. I think we had a golden opportunity to put them against the wall in that first quarter and by field position. And then the next thing you know, we've only run, I think, 7 or 8 plays in the first quarter. And with that kind of field position, it's something that is just really killed us. And again, if those 4th downs are any shorter, analytically we go for them. But man, they were so long, and we got to punt the football.
Yeah. And something you briefly touched on there, you really didn't have a lot of time on the field offensively in the first half. I mean, Incarnate Word's first touchdown drive, 19 plays for 7.5 minutes. I mean, that is huge of a momentum swing there, and it leaves the offense on the sidelines, and the defense is working harder than, and getting worn out in the long run.
Right.
How much of an impact do you think that had going even into the second half?
Yeah, I think it was huge because your game plan is to, on a team like that, when you're playing a spread team, man, they're trying to get big chunk plays, and you want to keep the ball inside and in front of you and don't give up and we did that. And so, but you got to get off the field. And I go back to you look at the 3rd downs. We had major mistakes on 3rd downs, whether it was the 3rd and shorts, 3rd mediums, 3rd and longs that they completed. Quarterback got out of the pocket a couple times. Well, he's going to do that. He's a good player. And so you can't panic, and you got to stay with your pass rush plan. And, I thought we did a really good job of sacking him throughout the night. We're doing a really good job of sacking the quarterback. But on those crucial situations on 3rd down, we just got to be better.
And what's crazy is you give up 280 yards of offense for an entire game. That's nothing in this day and age, and yet it's those little moments. So you're down 13-3 at halftime. You get a field goal from Blair Zepeda with 6 seconds to go before halftime. They make it 20-3 after converting an interception into a touchdown. But you come back and you score 2 straight touchdowns in between. Massive hit from Gabe Ortega, jars the ball loose. Jeremiah Chambers scoops it up, returns it, you score again. Now it's 20-17. You're rolling a little bit. What did you see in those couple of drives? Maybe what did Josh Lamberson, your offensive coordinator, and you find in those drives that was working?
Consistency. First down, the number one. We're trying to get 5+ yards on first down, and I felt like on those drives, you go back and look at them, we were consistent getting 5+ yards on first down. We were converting on 3rd downs because they were 3rd and shorts. And then just the overall execution. I mean, we're very thorough when we go back and look at that. On those drives we scored on, we didn't have mental mistakes. Yeah, there are always going to be physical mistakes when the other team's playing with 11 dudes. But there wasn't the mental bust on those drives.
In the previous segment, you talked about the negative turnover margin, and that being a big factor and a key part you've talked about all season. Protecting the ball was a struggle, needless to say, in that matchup. Going forward, what are the changes they're going to need to get back on track to the success you've had with a positive turnover margin in the previous games this season?
Yeah, well, you go back and you look at those things. There's everybody has a hand in turnovers. Receivers not running the right route. Protection wasn't good as it needed to be. But I think the thing you go back and you look at is just a couple of the throws were a little bit high. They were the right reads. They were just a little bit high. And so you go back and just the other ones and just really say, hey, we got to get into the check down on that route. And then I'll take it a step farther. Just if we can get into a situation where we're having more success running the football and getting 5+ yards, I really feel like with our offense, we've got to be able to do that.
Late in the game, Tracy James scores his 10th touchdown of the season, leads the nation with 10 total touchdowns, by the way. You make it 31-24, go for an onside kick, they recover. You actually get the ball back, but didn't really have much time, and by that time you're out of timeouts. And so you fall 31-24. The message to the team after the game was what?
Well, we were disappointed. I told them that. I wasn't disappointed at anybody. We were disappointed in coming out on the end, and then take it a step farther. I try not to overdo that. try to get in and watch film. Had 4 hours on the bus. You watch film on the way home and get them back in there Sunday. And it was just, we debrief as coaches, offense, defense, special teams, and it's just the major theme that we kept coming up with as coaches it was literally guys were in a panic at times. Guys were trying too hard. Guys were a little bit emotional in situations they didn't need to be emotional in. And I take that back to it's just it's not an effort deal. It's not a preparation deal. It's, hey man, we everybody cares now. Let's refocus. Let's remember what Saturday is. Saturday should be a celebration of your hard work, and you only get so many of those opportunities, and you got to go out and play. With great spirit about you and great energy, and stop focusing on the outcome. I just felt like guys kicked off. You look at it, it's like it was kicked off, and guys were worried about, well, what's going to happen at the end of the game, and instead of enjoying the moments along the way and competing along the way. And so, just trying to get guys honed in on, hey, let's go 1-0 each play. Let's go 1-0 first quarter, 1-0 the second quarter, and just that mantra of trying to win the day, I think, is really something our program could use right now.
And every Saturday takes a toll on these players' bodies. It's the game of college football.
Yep.
Robert McKnight, along with a few others, took a few hits in that play. Going forward, what should we expect? How are they doing? And what are your thoughts on their availability?
Yeah, they're everybody's good from Saturday. Going to play Saturday, and Robert, thank God, is fine. You get in a situation like that, and those are scary situations, man, as a head coach. They're scary for the player. They're scary for the other players anytime somebody has to be neck braced and carried off the field. And our medical staff did a really good job of driving the bus with that situation. And we actually had Robert on the bus with us on the way home. They got him over to the hospital, did the appropriate tests. He doesn't have any type of neck injury or back injury, which was great, and that's something you always worry about. So, yeah, we're ready to move forward, and college football it's a physical game, and it's like I tell our guys, and we always try to mantra in our football program, next man up, and you're not always going to have the starters, man. It's just football is so different than other sports, and I know other sports they get injuries in them, but football is just it's a whole different deal.
Well, as you learned, having to play without Quayshawn Washington, Billy McCrary for the first game, I do want to give a shout out to Robert. He's been a terrific special teams player. He and Ryan Stapp, by the way, their 2 kick returns were I thought big in that game.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the special teams. It seems like every kickoff now is a touchback, and that's not the case, and that led to points for your team. So, ASU falls 31-24, and now the Wildcats get ready to take on Lamar. We will preview that game in just a bit, but as we go to break, take a look at scores from last week around the Southland Conference. This is the Adam Dorrel Show presented by Lawrence Hall.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Owen Simpson. Conference play opened for the Wildcats volleyball team this past week in Moody Coliseum with Incarnate Word and Texas A&M Corpus Christi knocking at the door. ASU was able to answer the call on both occasions, taking both down Incarnate Word in straight sets Thursday and in 4 sets Saturday over the Islanders. They finished with an impressive 10 aces against the Cardinals, and Lindsey Toney leading the way with 11 kills and 4 aces of her own. Saturday's match was a little more competitive against the Islanders, but head coach Angela Mooney said her team did a great job at controlling the pace of the game.
The block did a great job of using what we call as a quick 3. It's a faster blocking move than we typically have to use against opponents. Corpus has a really fast offense, and so I think our girls did a really good job of adjusting to something that we don't see in our gym very often. We don't run a fast play like Corpus does, and so for them to slow down balls, that was our goal, that use that quick 3, slow down balls at the net, and then look to transition dig, be aggressive out of that. And I think they did exactly that. It took a couple of sets, maybe a set and a half, to really start doing it on purpose and slowing down the balls. But once they got used to that and the speed of the set, I think they did a great job.
Kennedy Shellstead led the way for ACU against the Islanders with 15 kills and 3 blocks, placing the Wildcats tied for first in the Southland Conference after 2 games. They'll be put to the test once more as they travel to play McNeese Thursday night. And volleyball isn't the only undefeated team in conference play. The ASU soccer team dominated competition at Nichols last Friday, winning 8-0. It's the most goals the Wildcats have scored at the Division I level and the second most all time. Emily Heidman led the way with 3 goals, while Christina Arteaga and Samantha Vestal each had 2. ASU also dominated in total shots with 36 compared to just 4 from Nichols. Later that Sunday, it was a much more competitive matchup, but with a similar outcome. ACU faced Southeastern Louisiana in a game that ultimately came down to the final seconds. With just 9 seconds left in regulation, Kaylin Wright scored the first and only goal of the evening off an assist from Peyton Starch. Up next on the agenda, the Wildcats will look to stay undefeated in Southland Conference here in Abilene with Northwestern State Friday at 7. Cade Parmalee, an offensive lineman for the ACU Wildcats, sat down with Marlo Davis to discuss his involvement on the football team and his role on campus.
So it's obvious you've been putting forth a lot of dedication over the last couple of years you've been on campus. How has that shaped you as a player?
I guess just kind of the whole ACU, thinking about the whole ACU experience since I've been here the last 3 years. I've really changed a lot, I think, in the last 3 years. And no credit to my own self. I think it's all been through other people, professors, kind of mentors of mine, disciplers. Just the whole culture of ACU is faith first. It took me maybe a year to kind of jump into that whole train, and I became a Christian my junior year of high school, but it wasn't probably until a couple of years ago that I really started growing.
Coach Dorrel has said he's really happy to not only have so many Abilene natives on his team, but on his starting offensive line. Tell us what it's like to play alongside fellow Abilenians like Slade Anderson and John Crisp.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I love playing, especially playing right next to John. Slade's on the other side, so it's always fun playing with both of them. But John and I have a pretty unique relationship. I think he'd be the first one to tell you that. We really kind of started growing as pretty good friends, I guess, our freshman year, and we kind of swapped positions. Most of the year I played right guard, he played right tackle, and then we'd switch, and then I'd play right tackle, he'd play right guard. So it's just kind of funny how it worked out, but it's a funny relationship, really good friendship too, yeah.
Well, you've not only proved yourself on the field, but also on ACU's campus and surrounding community as well. As a member of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, a member of Gamma Sigma Phi, and even a sing-song participant, how do you manage to balance all of it?
Well, it is a juggling act for sure. I think you have to balance it or you will get extremely weighed down. Kind of alluding back to what we were just talking about earlier of kind of the whole AC experience, and 3 hours of practice at night, and you have film study during the day, you have football homework, you have school homework, you have relationships outside of football and things that you care about, and which I do. And so it's not kind of like I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm obligated to do it. It's like, no, I enjoy it, and I find joy in doing all these things.
We understand you have a pretty great dog named Moose. Do you mind sharing with us how you got Moose?
Yeah, so I got her in high school, my junior year of high school. She was actually a Make-A-Wish dog, and she's pretty awesome. I was always showing pictures to people. She has her own Instagram, so if you want to go follow her, Moosey_the_Mastiff. So anytime I can go and spend with Moose, it's always pretty fun.
Now, being on the offensive line, you don't always get in the limelight. Tell us what you enjoy most about being on the line.
I've always kind of been an offensive lineman at heart, I think. At 7th grade, the first year for me to really play football, I tried to play quarterback, and about a weekend I had a coach come to me and say, put his arm around me real tender like, and he was just like, hey, you're not a quarterback, so let's try to stick to this O-line thing. And kind of since then, man, it's always been fun. It's a really physical position, so I enjoy the physicality of it. It's kind of, you can kind of get a bunch of aggression out, and it's legal, and you don't have to pay consequences for it. But yeah, I enjoy the physicality of it, and kind of the whole recognition that you're not really receiving a lot of recognition, and so it kind of keeps you humble. It keeps you really humble, yeah.
As we welcome you back to the Adam Dorrel Show, take a look at the Southland Conference standings. 5 teams unbeaten, led by Sam Houston State and Southeastern Louisiana. ASU's last 2 conference opponents this season, both 2-0. There's ASU at 1-2. Now take a peek at today's Southland Conference schedule. Two of those unbeaten teams play each other when Central Arkansas visits Nichols in a fascinating game taking place in Houston. HBU hosts Incarnate Word. The Huskies, who come to Wildcat Stadium next week, are averaging 52 points per game. Okay, we turn our attention now to the game at hand for the Wildcats as they take on Lamar 55 years and a week after they played the first ever game in Southland Conference history back in 1964. Both teams 2-3 overall. ASU is 1-2 in the league. Lamar is 0-2, so a huge game for both teams in terms of the playoff picture. Since the Wildcats last saw the Cardinals, they've changed head coaches. Mike Schultz now in charge, and they've been to the FCS playoffs. Coach, last year they were seemingly going nowhere. They were 0-3 in the league, and what do? They block a field goal by Incarnate Word on the last play of the game, return it for a touchdown, and that was the first of 6 straight wins to end the season. It wound up taking them to the FCS playoffs. As you look at their program, what most impresses you about their turnaround?
Well, I think Coach Schultz, he's a good guy. I've become friends with him. He's been in the profession a long time. I think he's done a really good job of going in there recruiting. I think he's done a really good job of starting with an offensive system nobody else is running in the Southland Conference. They're running veer, midline, old school option football. Now they're doing it out of the shotgun and the pistol, but make no mistake about it, it's option football. They do a great job of it, setting up play action passes. So I just think the uniqueness of their offense is something that really helps spark their program.
And you've mentioned to me on a couple occasions that the offense for your team has really struggled to get going earlier on in the games this season. Going into this week, how do you get over those struggles and start off strong?
Well, yeah, I think, again, it goes back in self-evaluation on what we're doing, and obviously I've done that. And we're going to change some things up Thursday on how we script our first 20 plays and how we're going to practice those plays. And again, on Friday, I think it starts with that. But just getting our guys into a mindset of being more aggressive. Hey, don't panic, but let's have more of a sense of urgency in the first quarter. Obviously, any offense, you're trying to set up stuff. You're looking at formations, what's your formations, how they're playing them. And then obviously you're always trying to set up stuff, us run, set up play action passes. That's all good, but let's try to be a little bit more aggressive in the play calling, and we'll do that and try to get guys really honed in on, hey, don't panic, but just have more sense of urgency in those first 25 plays.
You talked about their offense. Jordan Hoy is their quarterback, and he was a newcomer of the year, co-newcomer of the year with your own Billy McCrary last year in the Southland Conference. And he is a true dual threat quarterback. He can hurt you with his arm, and he can also beat you with his legs. What are some specific keys when you're trying to defend a guy who can beat you in a couple of different ways?
Well, for them with option, man, you have to be gap sound, and we have to have somebody on dive, pitch, and quarterback every time. Obviously, you have to change your looks up, give him a cue call, how he's reading the D end when he's reading him. Sometimes you got to squeeze, sometimes you got to charge the mesh point. You have to be fundamentally sound, but you have to change up the look that they're seeing. But it has to be to a point where it's not so complex that you got guys out of gaps, and then just great eye discipline. What they try to do is lull you to sleep. Next thing you know, they're running a play action pass. It's usually a 2-man route, with the post wheel combination, or trying to sink somebody up the seam. So you just got to have really good eye discipline in the back end too.
Quick thought, when you talk to teams who play the service academies, Navy, Air Force, Army, they'll talk about assignment football for the defense. It means you go to your guy whether he's got the ball or not, because just when you think he doesn't, he might.
Yeah, absolutely. And I take it a step farther. You need to go to your guy, and you need to be physical when you get there. You need to tackle, cleanly, but you need to tackle and hit him anyway. And bring him to the ground, because that stuff's so diverse and you can't tell who has the ball.
Now, this is going to be your second consecutive road trip, but your 4 out of the last 5 conference games are here at home. I know you don't have the choice, but if you did, would you prefer to have more home games at the beginning of the season, or more like this season we're experiencing?
I don't know. I never thought about it, to be really honest with you.
You don't control it. So
no, I don't. As a head coach, man, I've always just honed in on, and I get that question a lot, and I certainly understand it, but I think from years of just competing, I've just really tried to mindset on what I can control, and we never talk about scheduling in our program. We never look at the schedule. We literally look one. We do talk a lot about road games. We do talk a lot about that, because I think to win on the road in any endeavor in athletics is hard, and so I think you have to have better preparation, better focus. I think you have to be really cognitive of your sleep and how you're doing it and how you travel. We do, a first-class job, and I'm really appreciative we can do that with our guys. But, get down there, get set, get meetings, relax, but also stay focused because you're with each other a long time in the hotel.
The good news is a lot of football here at Wildcat Stadium coming up over the next month. We invite you to come out and see the Wildcats in person. But first, tonight, ASU at Lamar in Beaumont. Kickoff set for 6 p.m. Jim Reese and I will have the pregame show on radio beginning at 5:30. You can listen on 98.1 FM here in Abilene and online. Get the link at asusports.com or listen via the iHeartRadio app. For Coach Dorrel and for Owen, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching the Adam Dorrel Show presented by Lawrence Hall. Enjoy the game. We'll see you right here next week.